Sunday morning back at my place. You could sleep late, I don't mind. Break some eggs, make a mixtape, and let it play like 20 times. I ain't got no money, but I got lots of time. So let's spend a little, live a little, cause every day the sun will rise.
Wake up!
All right, Komba, why? Why, Rio, why? Anyway, welcome to the Terrace Up My Heart podcast. Thank you once again to the amazing Run River North for opening us up with the acoustic version of their feel-good song, Wake Up. Tonight we will be covering Week 31, Publicity Stunt, where Rio's stock continues to nosedive as he continues to look more and more like droopy-eyed Sylvester Stallone with his newfound black eye on the left side of his face. I am your host, Jaehyun, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Lucy Lee and Daniel Che. And tonight we are also joined by a special guest, one of Lucy's friends, a Terrace House fanatic, and apparently a Terrace Up My Heart podcast fanatic as well. Yuki, how's it going?
It's going great. This is like the highlight of my quarantine, literally.
Welcome.
I told my mom, I told all my friends, I told my coworkers.
No, you don't. Oh boy.
You don't have to do that, but we appreciate it. Why don't you give us like a quick elevator pitch on yourself, whatever you want to divulge, and I guess why you love Terrace House so much or how you got into the show?
Sure. So I am second generation Japanese American. I was born here, but then I lived in Japan for a couple years, and I've been going back pretty frequently ever since. My dad lives in Japan, so I feel like we have really strong ties there. I've been married for a while, and we just had a baby. Well, not just, but we had a baby, and now he's 15 months old. Wow. And I also work as a counselor, as a therapist.
Oh, nice.
And
awesome.
Yeah, so Terrace House is pretty much the only show that all three of us can agree on. So,
including your 15th month old?
Yeah, my baby loves to watch this show. I think it's because it's like, it just shows people being people. So like, he's like learning a lot. And also you get like a lot of close-ups of really pretty girls. So he definitely like pays more attention when the girls are on. But yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, nice. We're glad to have you on. I'm sure the social psych aspect of Terrace House is right up your alley with regards to being a therapist.
Heck yeah.
All right. So the icebreaker question of the night is, looking back on all past Terrace House seasons, which date do you find the most endearing and cute to yourself personally? Or maybe even just a date that you're fond of for whatever peculiar reason. And then secondly, which date activity, regardless of how the date actually went on the show, would you most want to go to? Lucy, let's start off with you.
All right, so going to my favorite couple, Shion and Tsubasa. I actually did I rewatched like some of my favorite dates to prep for this icebreaker question, and this is so my favorite date in terms of chemistry is their ice skating date. So to recap, they go on an ice skating date and then Shion's like not that good, and obviously Tsubasa that's her profession. She's an ice hockey player, so he kind of stumbles around and they're kind of forced to hold hands and like pull each other off the ground, and it's romantic AF, you know. And then afterwards, she goes to her dad's. She's like, "Do you want to come to my dad's restaurant?" And that's Shion's first time there. So it's just like, I challenge you to watch that without a stupid grin on your face, like the whole time, because it's major feels. Nice. So that's my favorite date. And then the date I wanted to go on, I think I really liked Minori and Uchi's first date. I think they like go somewhere on a boat and they go fishing, and then they look at some cows and then they end up having like a picnic in like this nature area. And to me, that seemed really fun and just chill. So
nice.
That's mine.
Awesome. Dan, what about you?
The first date I actually thought of that was just clear in my head was the Guy and Nikki date. Do you remember that from Aloha
on the
State?
beach where he builds her like a stick fort or something?
Right. And they're just like, I think just something about them I guess I just remember the chemistry they had. It was just felt so at ease and natural. And I don't know, that's just the first date that popped into my head. So probably that one. One I would want to go on is actually the Tsubasa date because like they eat soba and it just looks so good. I don't know, that I'm totally into the Japanese countryside vibe. That's
very nice.
That's
Yeah,
it
the
for
guy
me.
in Nikki one was very childlike.
Right.
Childlike innocence like. Yuki, what about you?
Yeah, so I had a feeling Lucy would pick the Tsubasa Shion date, but it's just like the perfect like rom-com like combination of goofy and then like heartfelt because they also talk about how Tsubasa's mom passed away and she says the line like I cried a lifetime of tears and
Wow.
the dad has a moment that's like, oh, like Tsubasa's never brought a boy, like never been on a date before. I've never seen that, you know? So just like such like cute moments. So definitely like that's number one. Perfect all the way. The date I would want to go for myself is I would want to go where like Taishi and Anna went in Hawaii. They went to like horseback riding, but in Jurassic Park. So totally down for that, just not with Taishi. But like if I had to go on a date with the actual person, I would definitely want to hang out with Guy and like build the stick fort tent and like he could find the dead fish and we'll like play around with it. Like totally cool. Totally down for that too.
That's awesome. I guess mine is like super weird. I don't know why I chose this one. It's not really cute or endearing, but it stood out in my head. But the date that I would choose would be Armand and Arisa going to the amusement park, and Armand is like almost about to puke at every turn. I think I was just more amused by the fact that it was just a very real date, and the fact that he tried to push through this hangover in the worst way possible, and the look on his face every time they go on a ride, and then after the ride where he'd be like, I need to go to the restroom, and then Arisa would just be sitting outside on a table waiting for him. I just thought the whole thing was hilarious, and I think at this point their chemistry is building and we still don't know, how Arisa's feeling and what she's inevitably going to do to him. So it felt like their feelings were genuine and Arisa at this point was genuinely concerned with Armand's well-being. And I think touched by the fact that he tried to trudge through this for her sake and he wanted to keep the date. So I think I like that more for just personally it was amusing. With regards to a date that I would want to be on, I did have the Taishi and Anna date in the Jurassic Park area in Hawaii, and Dan and Lucy know that I love Aloha State. So I also came up with another option just in case. And I think I would actually enjoy going on Udai's obstacle course activity with the ropes and stuff that they never ended up going on because what's her name? Ami did not want to do it at all. But I was I think that would have actually been kind of fun, But they just kind of looked at it and they're like, ready to go? Yep. So, but God. I thought it would have been a fun, physical activity to do together, So that's a date that I would have loved to go on. Nice. All right, cool. That is our icebreaker question of the night. Before we get into our recap of the show, as usual, you can find us on the iTunes Apple Podcast app, as well as Spotify and Anchor. We would really appreciate a 5-star rating and review on iTunes if you have the time. Please also follow us on all the socials. It is at Terrace Heart Pod on Twitter, and then Terrace Up My Heart on Instagram and YouTube as well. Okay, week 31, publicity stunt. I'll give a quick recap and summary before we dive into our awards. We open up on Emika reconvening with the girls about what she talked about with Rio and pretty much telling them to talk to him individually so that they can get their answers from him. And then Hana, Tapas, Emika, and Vivi are on the couch. They wonder why Kai has been so MIA. They go wake him up and find out that he has a fever. And then the next day, Kai's fever has come down a little bit and he has this sort of deep conversation with Vivi on the patio where Kai begins to express some of the dark thoughts that are weighing on his mind, and Vivi helps him actualize some of his goals. And then we find Vivi and Emika at the dining table with Rio, who reveals he's gotten a big black eye from playing basketball, which I think is kind of symbolic for how his episode turns out. And then he tells everybody that he wants to have a dinner coming up with everybody. And then shortly after that at the dining table, Hana confronts Rio and wonders if there's anything more to him setting up this dinner. And then inevitably she asks him how he feels about her and Vivi, to which he responds, "I see you guys both as friends." And then we get this pretty intense back and forth between Vivi and Rio, where they decide to watch another Netflix movie together on the couch. But before they do that, Vivi finally confronts Rio and takes him on a one-on-one DTR thing going on the court, where she D's him up and forces him to pretty much lay it all out on the table. We end this episode with Vivi talking to Emika and Hana in the room about Vivi's discussion with Rio and just how frustrating it was. And then Hana reveals to Vivi that when she first talked to Rio, he told her that he only saw both of them as friends, to which Vivi just is super exasperated and fired up. And that's how we end this episode. So, Rio bashing hour part 2. Let's start with our highlight of the night. Lucy, what is your highlight of the night?
I think it would have to be the girls' debriefing session at the end of the episode. It was almost meta, where like you felt very cathartic for how much people weren't saying about Rio. Everything kind of came out, and it was prompted by kind of Emika pointing out that he doesn't really do anything. Like, he points stuff out but doesn't actually help around the house, maybe because he's not home, to his credit. But yeah, he has a lot of personas that he puts on, but is not really himself. And I think from following the Terrace House subreddit, like, they like to call Rio the basketball Kenny. Like, he's like the basketball version of Kenny, which I love that nickname. But yeah, so this kind of just like revealed a lot, which was my highlight.
Yeah, they absolutely ripped him to shreds there. Dan, what about you for your highlight of the night?
Yeah, I have the same as Lucy. I think everything was building up to this conversation. It was so cringeworthy when Vivi was talking to Rio. But finally, like, after all of this time, like, of Hana giving Rio a chance, of Vivi giving him a chance, like, something clicks and they just like unleash everything on him at one time, and it just felt so good, and you feel like you're rooting for them, and because you're feeling the same thing. So that's definitely my highlight of the night.
It's like they became the Taylor Swift Bad Blood video, where they're all walking in unison, and then those explosions in the back.
Yes.
Yuki, what about you?
I would say the Vivi and Rio DTR on the couch. Like, the first time I watched it, I think I was just like, I couldn't believe this was happening. And like, just every single line that Rio said, it just showed more and more about like who he really is. So I feel like it just said so much, and it's kind of like refreshing to finally see like who he really is, you know? So that was definitely a highlight.
Do you guys want to talk about this, or... Oh, there's some interference going on. Do you guys hear that? Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Do you guys want to land on this and talk about Rio and Vivi's conversation, or is it going to come up in your guys' things moving forward? At which point we can just kind of...
Let's save it. I think
Okay.
we'll get to it.
I
Cool.
think it's later, yeah.
All right. My choice for highlight of the night, because I knew it was going to go this direction with everybody else, was I chose something a little bit more wholesome, and I chose Vivi talking to Kai. So, you know, she had that moment with Tapas where she kind of brings out the best of him and tries to help him out with whatever issues he has going on internally. And I think in this moment in the patio, when Kai is just chilling in the hammock, she gets him to open up, and she's able to have him remember and articulate his reasons for coming to Terrace House in the first place. And then she does a good job of keeping him accountable of that and saying, okay, if those are your motivations for coming here, then why are you isolating yourself? And why are you getting all up in your like dark feelings and emotions? If what you wanted was always to gain new perspectives from new people and also gain lifelong friends. And I thought she had one great line to end it, where she said, you know, this will also help your comedy. You know, if you get to know these people better and you get to actually intake their perspectives on life. So use it as part of your comedy, and use your actual personal experiences and not stuff you have no idea about in the first place. So, and I think Kai actually was very receptive to that. So I enjoyed that interaction between Vivi and Kai. All right, let's move on then to our MVP of the night. Lucy, who's your MVP of the night?
All right, so my MVP is Rio because this episode is all about him, and if he were to get an MVP in any episode, it would be this one because he contributed a lot to the story. And he had 2 DTRs essentially, and maybe 2 rejections. I would say, like, if defense wins championships, he definitely wins
Nice.
this episode.
Nice.
So there you go.
Well done. Dan, what about you?
I mean, I completely agree with Lucy on her points. But I chose Vivi because she had a high player efficiency rating. Sorry. I really liked how she had a lot of action throughout the episode. What is it? She talks with Kai, talks about some deep stuff there, talks with Rio, talks about some deep stuff there, and then afterwards with the girls, and she's just like just firing on all cylinders. And I like the turn she has at the end, so she's my MVP.
Nice. Yuki, what about you for your MVP of that episode?
Yeah, so I was actually gonna pick Emika because she's kind of like, she hits all these different fields. So like one is she gets like the inside scoop by like talking one-on-one with Yo, but then she also like in the end joins the girls as they like tear him apart. And then like somewhere in the middle, she also has time to just like chill out and drink Coke with Topasu. Like that's just like very skilled. And I think there was like one point where she like came home and she was like super happy because she's like living her life. So
Nice.
Yeah.
No, I like that. I like that angle. And then there's also that moment where the panelists start to put her into this conspiracy theory where they're like, is she doing something with Rio or what's going on here? So yeah, that's an interesting MVP angle, but I like it. Yeah, so my MVP also would be Vivi for the reasons that Dan mentioned, just having that, giving Kai that free therapy session. And man, she just tore Rio a new one in this episode. And she has never spoken. We've seen her speak very strongly about certain topics, but she's never spoken with more conviction in this episode, I feel like, especially when Rio is just throwing out excuses left and right, and she's like laughing at some of his answers, and she's like, what the heck are you talking about? And then, yeah, I felt like she was just very on point, articulate, wasn't stuttering anywhere, and yeah, for those reasons, Vivi is my MVP of the night. All right, let's move on to most improved player of the episode. Lucy, who do you have as your most improved?
So I have Hana, and I think I keep giving her most improved, but she seems to keep improving. And one example that I'll give is, so they noticed that Kai wasn't really talking to anyone and he was in the playroom by himself. And so she took the initiative to talk to him. And one thing that I noted was like he said, oh, I'm pretty introverted. And instead of saying like, oh, you shouldn't do that, she said, you know, it would be nice if you hung out with everyone. I think we all want to see you. So I don't know. I felt like that was a very high EQ thing, like in that moment for her to say. And if you contrast it with Vivi's conversation with Kai, it was more direct, right? Like she just cut through the crap and was like, you know, you need to stop doing this, like, you know, more direct, which like is Vivi's style, and maybe they have that kind of relationship. But I really appreciated how Hana had very good tact in like coercing him out of the playroom and eventually to join everyone on the couch. So she's my most improved.
And she also put the chill plast forehead pad thing on his head that instantly healed him. Actually, maybe that's my MVP. I mean, Kai was better the next day. Anyways,
chill plast is your MVP.
Dan, what about you for your most improved player?
So this is one of those rare occasions where I have the most improved player also as the MVP. So my most improved player is Vivi, because I feel like up until this episode, you're kind of like, oh yeah, she's cool. But like, this is the episode that cements her. Like, you're like, for me, she's like, I'm with this girl. Like, because she's so good at confronting people, but then finally that last piece of like her realizing that she needs to snap out of this. Like when that clicked for me, I was like, okay, like she really improved here. And she does this thing. I just wanted to point out, like, she's really good. If you just broke down her conversations like on text, they would probably read as very harsh, right? But I think she does this thing where she's really good at tone in conversation. So like even if the conversation is super serious, like when she approaches it, she's very direct, but she's respectful. And I think that's so key in any relationship and conversation. So
yeah,
go Vivi.
Definitely. Yuki, what about you for your most improved cast member of the episode?
Yes, so I also picked Hana. I just wanted to point out that she graduated from the fuzzy panda pajamas to like sleek, like grown-up matching pajamas. And
That's a good point. It was a very cute set.
Yes, she's like a grown-up now. And she made soup, so she like fed everybody. And
oh, that's good.
I was just really impressed by like how like professional and like cordial she was with Yo. Like even though there's all this like unspoken like confusion and like feeling like impatient, like when they were talking at the dinner table at first, when they were like just sitting next to each other and stuff, like she was like nothing but like friendly to him. And then even at the very end when the girls were like starting to talk about like debrief about what he said, like she was still like till the very end she was trying to like give him the benefit of the doubt, like she was like, oh well, maybe like he's just trying to be nice to me and like maybe he's doing it for like to protect me, like so I'm just really impressed that she's not like being petty and like angry because she's really young. So yeah, I was just really impressed by her maturity.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. My most improved player would be Kai, because one, he not only physically got better from his fever in just a day, but he got right back into writing and, took the criticism, I feel like constructively, that he's been receiving over the past few days and got right back to work. He also opened up a bit more about, his internal feelings of depression that has plagued him. And when Vivi tells him and reminds him of his initial motivations for going into the house, I think he was very receptive to that and realized as well, okay, maybe I have been, cooping myself up too much and not really extending myself. And maybe I'm too in my feelings about my struggles with just knowing how to convey my comedy to people, that I'm not actually living in this house. And so I thought that was really cool to see that self-actualization on his part and him actually working on his craft at the same time. So he didn't show up a lot in this episode, but the moments you did see him, he was either on his computer typing away or having that conversation with Vivi. So and I feel like the episode started off pretty rocky for him because they were just saying, he's never around. What's he doing? He's sleeping in the playroom. And then we find out he's been working his ass off, and to the point where he hasn't been taking care of himself and he has a fever now, so it's not about him just isolating himself in that moment. So I was impressed by his vulnerability in this episode. So
yeah, on this rewatch, I actually thought like, I don't know, it just hit me like a train. It's like, wow, this guy like must be really going through stuff. Like I actually thought like, is this guy like clinically depressed? Because like the way he was just isolating himself and like sleeping all day, like that really stood out to me. I was like, I guess on the first watch I was like, oh, whatever, he's just like being a loner. But I mean, as we learn in later episodes without any spoilers, like maybe this is a serious thing. And so I feel for him. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, he mentioned that, like, I think about why I exist a lot. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty heavy stuff, man. We're just talking about comedy here. But it just kind of gives you a window and peek into, like, everything he must be sort of grappling with. Before we move on with the rest of our words, we'll take it to break and hear from our sponsors, and then we'll catch you guys after that. All right, so we are back. Let's move on to our defensive player of the episode. It's probably going to be the same as it has been the last 3 episodes or so, but we'll go through it anyway. Lucy, who's your defensive player of the episode?
Well, it's Lily Frank. I'm just kidding.
Just comes out of nowhere.
It's Rio, obviously, and I think let me think about this.
This is where we get into it, man.
Yeah. So the Hana conversation with him at the table, I felt that was handled pretty well, given maybe it was Hana's questioning that kind of probed him to really just answer straightforwardly. And I think he ultimately knew how he felt about Hana, which is that he didn't see her as a romantic interest. So he was able to give a clear answer that he was not interested in her. But the way he answered Vivi, and we can get probably into that more, it was super confusing. First of all, like, she calls him out that he never answers her question directly, how do you feel about me? He just answers with the question, like, you know, I don't know what kind of tactic that is. And then ultimately he says, it's not, like, you know how people say it's not you, it's me? But he actually says, it's not me, it's you. It's your career.
My God.
It's your dream that's keeping us apart.
Oh, Lord.
That's his punchline. And I'm like, wow, he really just said that. And like, I think he should switch his sport of choice to dodgeball instead of basketball.
Get him, Lush.
That's my hot take right here. He should switch leagues.
Hold on, I need to compose myself. That was great. Dan, what about you? More to say about Rio?
I just want to write what I want to read what I wrote down in my notes. Defensive player of the game is the computer being placed right in the middle of the couch when they watch a movie. Okay. In all honesty, it's Rio, the pansy ass, fake ass loser.
Quote.
Yeah, and this I'll kind of dip into my quote of the episode because it plays into this. But Lucy, you just touched on this. Vivi confesses, to put it plainly, you know I'm into you, right? I don't know what it is, but I feel electricity with you. She's very direct. And then sorry, I'm just reading my notes. After Vivi says this, like 3 minutes later or however long later, Rio goes, have you ever outright told me how you feel? She just said, you know I'm into you, right? To put it plainly, you know I'm into you. Like, I don't know. This Rio, I hope he watches these episodes and is able to reflect. Although I went to his Instagram, and based off of his posts and stories, it seems like he has not watched any of this and is unaffected. Go check it out. There's this like video of him like dancing in like boxer briefs. It's just so weird. And all of his posts are still basketball. And so like clearly he has not gotten the message. Yeah, I'm sure he's a great guy though in person.
Oh man, I hope he plays as good of a defense as he does in relationships as he does in basketball, because that would be amazing. But I'm turning so red right now. Yuki, what about you for your defensive player of the episode?
I mean, I just wanted to add on to Lucy and Dan. So he's just a master at avoiding eye contact. When it was like him, Emika, and Vivi, like he kept looking towards Emika instead of like just looking straight at Vivi.
Oh my God.
The black eye, like it was not cute. So that's a defense. Like it's like a turn off. His like mysterious hickey thing that is like, Yep, that's also gross. And just his like careful DTR with Hana, just like he's walking through a minefield. And then obviously like all the defensive skills like showcased in his DTR with Vivi. So way to go. Man. Way to go.
Very nice. So I have more to tack on to this, obviously. Man, at this point, I feel like it's one of those situations where Rio has dug himself such a hole that he's now trying to dig himself out of it, but he realizes just the complicated web that he's intertwined himself so that every answer he now gives just doesn't make any more sense. Like, for one thing, he tells Hana, I only see the both of you as friends. And then he doesn't do the calculations that maybe he'll have to talk to Vivi at the end here. And then he tells her, no, I like you. but here are the excuses as why we can't move forward, totally forgetting that, oh wait, I just told Hana that I just see them as friends. And him just not even taking into account that this is probably going to get back to Vivi. But it's him just covering his ass on all these different areas, but not doing it consistently. So he just ends up looking like he's contradicting himself, like left and right. And
it's a web of lies.
Yes.
Web of lies.
Web
Or
of
like
lies.
web of just like lukewarmness that just gets him into trouble, of him trying to just be, like quote unquote nice to everybody, but really he is just making everybody hate him even more.
Right.
Let's talk about Ryo's excuses.
Wait, can I add on to that?
Go ahead,
He also, I feel like this web of entanglement is the perfect picture because, as they mentioned in the final conversation and the title of the episode, publicity stunt, like he's like now got so many balls in the air that he has to juggle because it's Hana and what he said to Hana, what he said to Vivi, but also portraying this image of being the captain and trying to make the Olympic team. So how does he do all of this while coming across as an honorable man, right? For for Japan to see and obviously the world. And so he's just dug himself into a terrible hole here. And I think that's where he's starting to process, oh shoot, like I have no words, like I'm speechless. Yeah.
I just hate how he tries to sound like he has conviction in what he says, but it just ends like, I hate how he tries to frame everything as if he truly cares about the person.
Right.
And you can see right through it. Vivi sees right through it in the moment. And you see him stuttering and him doing like this. He's like, oh wait, hold on.
You see him doing the math in his head.
Yeah, it's so bad. He's like malfunctioning on the spot. So let's dive in. Yeah, go ahead.
One thing he said was to Vivi saying, well, what if I just stayed in Japan? And he was like, oh man, I didn't account for that. I think it was like a Freudian slip. Like, I didn't even think about that possibility. And now I have to come up with a different reason why we can't be together,
Yes.
It was like,
oh no,
man, calibration.
Calculating,
could not compute anymore. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like his whole shtick of him sticking to this thing where he doesn't want the person to give up her dreams for a frivolous reason.
It seems honorable when it's really not,
It's not.
Yeah.
It's her choice to do that.
The
If
part
she
where-
deems something as meaningful, she will prioritize things in her life accordingly. But he
Correct.
continues to make it a black and white issue as if they're not mutually exclusive. Like you can only have a goal and a dream and you can only have a partner. It's like, it doesn't, what are you talking about? Why can't those two things coincide? So,
Right.
oh man, it's so frustrating.
I mean, it's as evidenced by other athletes on the show. Like Tsubasa is a great example. She pours her heart into hockey,
Yeah.
but she's also able to maintain just a normal relationship with this guy that maybe they're not like gonna get married or something, but they like each other and they want to see where it goes, right? And they were long distance too, you know? So it's everything that he says is shattered by the previous example of this can happen and it does work.
And also, if it seems like it's the case that he just does not like Vivi to this extent, and she's trying to get him to say that, Ryo, just say it. But he continues to say stuff like, it's not even about how much I like you. I would never ask you to do what you're about to do. And I'm like, what kind of bull crap is that? Oh my goodness. Yuki, anything else to add? Anybody have anything else to add?
So I was just kind of highlighting like different traits that are red flags that we can all take away in our relationships.
Sure, yes, let's
So-
go.
I'm into this.
So let's start from the beginning. So let me just preface this. So I think it could have gone better if Ryo could have just said, I'm attracted to you, but I can't commit to a relationship with you. That would have been really nice, but we wouldn't have gotten such juicy drama. And then so in the beginning, like Ryo asks, you're just interested in me, right? Like just a little bit. So he's like trying to minimize Vivi's feelings instead of validating them. And then one of the next lines he says was, let's try again. If you ask me how I felt, I would answer the way I did just now. Like, literally, what does that mean?
She's literally putting words in her mouth.
So he's again like avoidance, using like these grandiose like phrases.
It's like a fortune cookie.
Yes.
What
And
is
I want
this?
to point out too, like, Dan, you were talking about Vivi's tone. So, like, in the very beginning, she was using keigo, which is like formal language, which is like
interesting.
almost kind of like putting distance. So she was like, wait, like, what are you feeling? Like, please let me know. Like, please don't answer my question with a question. So that was like very like formal and almost like honoring him. But then as he started to say like all these things that don't make sense, she was like, wakanakatta toka yuna. So that's very like actually the opposite. It's like very like strong, like slang, like punk.
Nice.
Like
That's
don't
awesome.
tell me.
Nice.
I love this
Don't tell me
analysis.
like you're such a fool. Like don't tell me you didn't know. You know, like you know better. So she's like, you know, she's changing her tone too, just trying to like narrow in on like his BS. So she's just like, hey, come on, like, are we gonna like keep this going, or are we gonna stay friends? Like, let me know. And then he keeps doing that thing where it's like, now, like, right now. Do you want to know right now? So he's stalling.
Yeah, man.
Ay.
And let's see. But the part about like chasing his dreams since age 3, a dream is not something you let go of to pursue a trivial crush with me. Like definitely sounds like rehearsed. Like he like wrote it out with his like publicist beforehand. And then Lucy, like you were saying, it's not you, it's me, when he says, I want you to realize your dreams, right? Like how great. And then when she says, well, I could maybe stay in Japan, and he just says, it's too late for that. It's like, like when did that train leave the station? Like when would she ever have had a time to like change the plan with him? Like why is it too late? And then then this part is really a red flag for relationships. That's when he starts saying, oh, like, zuru yo ne, kiyo da ne. Like, he's saying, like, oh, you're so shady. You're so manipulative. Like, he's very, sarcastic. Yeah. So
my
it's
gosh.
like gaslighting her. It's making her, like, obviously blaming her, like, manipulating the situation to make it that she's this, like, conniving person that is, like, throwing a wrench in his plans. And, like, I don't know. But that was very... when he said zurui yo ne, I was like, ooh, like that got me. I was like, I don't like that.
You can drop the mic now, because that was the most amazing analysis.
Even now,
savage.
hearing those words,
so
I was like, ooh, that hurts. Zurui yo ne, because Vivi's nothing but like authentic and like has integrity, you know. So for him to like throw that type of shade, I'm like, ooh, out of nowhere.
I guess it must be like mortifying for him to like get stripped of his honor in front of the world, you know, in this way. And so he's probably like, I don't know, his defense
ass-saving
mechanisms are-
ass-saving
yeah,
mode.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like really kicking in hard, and like, because that is embarrassing, but it's ultimately his fault, which I don't feel bad for.
You're not charging us for this, right, Yuki, or what?
One of the last things
$200
he
an
said
hour?
that
Next
literally
level.
doesn't make sense. He literally said, I don't understand when you say that you never know what may happen in the future. So he's saying that, like, he can't accept that Vivi can't tell the future. Like, that's literally what he just said.
Oh my God.
Like,
Oh my
yeah.
goodness
So
gracious.
So it's just showing he's very, like, yeah, this is a, like, so if you see these behaviors in your relationships where it's, like, a lot of gaslighting, like, that's really harmful, you know, like, dating violence happens to a lot of relationships, and it's, like, glorified in the media, so I just want to highlight that as an example. These are some traits that may be red flags.
He's very manipulative.
Yes.
So, man, we need to move on from this, because this is
It's getting dark.
I mean,
oh my goodness.
I'll end with this last terrible Rio quote where he's like, even so, I do want to watch movies with you.
Yeah! Why?
man.
I'm just like, come
Oh my
on,
goodness.
bro.
So like sorry,
Let's-
just
yeah.
final, like, I think the one, like, because, you know, Vivi is really, like you guys have said, like, she's so amazing, right? But I would say, like, this is her one weakness, where she, like, falls fast and hard for someone.
Correct.
And then, like, I think
Yeah.
at the end of the conversation, she says, like, I don't have the courage to end this, so you decide. So, like, I really wish she did have the courage to be
Right.
like, wow, you are okay. Like, you're a whole thing and I'm not going to deal with this. Like, okay, goodbye, you know? Like, I wish she did have, like, the courage to end it at the point where he started to, like, call her shady and manipulative. I wish she could have just been like, okay, like, this is not appropriate. You know, I'm going to step out.
Yeah, and I wanted to point out, like, why, now that you brought up, like, Vivi's side, she actually never goes on a date with this guy. So all that she knows about him is just, I guess, the idea of him or what she thinks he is. Like, maybe they talked a lot in the house in the times that he was there, but they actually didn't get to know each other that well. So yeah, it is a flaw of hers. She fell really hard and she just got really stuck on this guy. And I feel for her. Like, she doesn't deserve this. And even the panelists said, like, man, she's just wasting her time, you know? Like, she really does not deserve this. But this is what she's been dealt with. And, like, she had to deal with it throughout her whole tenure on Terrace House. It's just so unfortunate.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, like,
All right.
sorry.
No. Keep
But, like,
keep on. Go ahead.
playing the devil's advocate, like, the way that Ryo was responding, like, I almost wonder if, like, Vivi was giving off this really intense vibe of, like, if you are, like, we can't just be, like, friends with benefits or just dating around. Like, we must be in, like, a committed relationship. Like, I don't know if, like, Ryo somehow internalized this pressure to, like, feel like he has to plan it out all the way to, like, long distance, like, America, you know? So that stuff, like, maybe we haven't been able to see.
That's a good point. The last thing I'll bring up with regards to this is I wanted to give him some benefit of the doubt when he was just talking about the long distance thing. And she was like, I want to make this work. And for him, and, you know, sometimes you just have to respect it when someone says, I don't think I can make that work.
Right.
I think he believes a part of that, but that shouldn't be enough to totally override just having an adult conversation with somebody and laying out all the options, which he hasn't done. But if he had actually done that and then said at the end of the day, if we do this and try it out long distance, I just don't think with my personality that fits. You know, I don't think I'd be able to upkeep it. So yeah, I guess just some things to keep in mind. All right, let's move on and try and shift the tone. Let's quickly get panel quote and take out of the way, and then we can do our favorite award, which is quote of the episode. So Lucy, what's your favorite panel quote or take of the episode?
Let me see. So I think they have a theory, right, that Emika and Ryo have something going on, and it was brought up like when they mentioned that he called Emika by her last name, like a familiarity to it. And even when he was planning that group outing and Vivi was literally sitting right in front of him, he kept addressing Emika. So I'm really on board with this, like, scandal here. Like, I really think that there is still something going on between Emika and Ryo. And my question is, where is Yuki Burns in all this to help us figure out what is going on? Like, you know that Dave Chappelle sketch? Like, where is Ja? I need Ja Rule to come and explain all of this to me. Like, I need Ja Rule to just come and let me know, is there something going on between Emika and Ryo? You know, like, just, I need to know. So yeah, the panelists, they're stuck on that theory, and I'm on board with that theory as well.
Interesting. Nice. Dan, what about you?
This is kind of tying back to our thing about Ryo we were just talking about. I think with anything, nothing is as simple as it seems, right? And so there's always levels of nuance and complexity to an argument or to a fight. And so I feel like this behind the scenes hooking up thing is probably what's at play here. And so at first, I too wrote, and I have in my notes right here, is Emika and Ryo hooking up? And this is the panel take, right? And so, Lucy, just like you mentioned, like their comfort around each other suggests that. But might I suggest another option is that first of all, I don't know who he's hooking up with behind the scenes, but maybe Vivi is so frustrated and Rio is so like, you know, checked out because they're hooking up behind the scenes. And this is to be the one time I spoil, but like, no, actually, oh freak, what do I do? Okay, I'll try not to spoil.
The web. You're in the web.
You're right. Stuff happens between Vivi and Rio that just seems out of nowhere, right? But suggests like that couldn't have been the first time, right? Or like maybe stuff has been happening between them off camera that she's frustrated that it can't translate on screen. And again, maybe the complexity here is maybe she's frustrated that Rio is hiding behind this dream thing while in real life they're hooking up, you know? And
interesting.
Like, so he has to, you know, present himself with honor in front of the world if he wants to pursue this captain thing, but like hooking up on the side with Vivi, like who's a foreigner, like sad to say, like that just would completely destroy his goal of being on the show. And so stuff to think about. Yeah, like the hickey's so random, there's no context, and I think the panel just really likes to hate on Emika.
Yeah. I think there's like a type, skill, like Emika, and then there's like a couple other like type of girls that are like that. Just like younger and like kind of like cool girl, kind of withdrawn, and then they tend to like use her as like the scapegoat or to like stir the pot, you know? Yeah.
Gotcha. Yuki, what's your favorite panel quote and or take of the episode?
I thought it was really funny when Yui said "ima," like the way she said she was copying Ryo when he said "now," like, do I have to give you an answer now? And she's just like "ima," like she said it's like an ugly girl thing to do.
That's really funny.
I just thought that was so good. Yeah.
Nice,
an ugly girl is busu in Japanese. So it's just like, I don't know, it was really funny. I love that word.
It's fitting for him. So. It's fitting for him.
Yeah.
I love
it was really funny.
Very nice. My favorite panel quote and or take of the... Oh no.
Okay.
Oh, I'm back. Okay.
Deep in thought again.
You lived through your first freeze out of Jaehyun.
I don't know why this happens. I was
okay.
I was caught in my own web of lies and I was malfunctioning.
Nice.
Okay, my favorite panel quote and take of the episode, I'll keep it short and brief, was just Yama-chan's observation that when Vivi tells Rio that she can kiss his black eye, boo boo, back to full health, that Rio's reaction was just one of awkward disdain rather than flattered happiness, because he literally like shrinks into his shoulder and starts laughing. And pretty much indicative of that entire relationship and how far it's devolved to this point. So I thought that was a good observation by Yama-chan. All right, so let us get to everybody's favorite award. Wait, should we do cringeworthy first? We should, right? Or leave quote till the last.
Either way, man.
Okay, let's do favorite quote. Lucy, what's your favorite quote of the episode?
It's pretty random, but I think when Hana is asking Rio, like trying to ask Rio how he feels, and then they both pull up like recipe books, and then Rio responds, Hana asks like, did you find your favorite crop? And he's like, my favorite crop is okra. And that was my favorite because I was thinking like, man, does this mean something? Like if this were a Jordan Peele movie, there would be like 10 layers of symbolism of why he chose okra that reveals how he truly feels about everything. But
wow,
but it's
you guys are on fire today. I love this.
And like we can probably write, a dissertation about why he chose okra just based on that quote alone. But I digress. But alas, it's just Terrace house and he's just stalling. So this is just another one of his stalling tactics, that he's so certain that he likes okra, but he can't really say what human he likes.
True. Very true. Dan, do you have another quote besides the one you said about, or do you want to repeat that quote again?
Sure, I'll repeat it. That's the only one I jotted down. It's when Vivi says, I feel like electricity for you, Dio. I clearly have feelings for you. Interaction, like whatever, he gets confronted, and then he says, he slyly slips in, you've never directly told me how you feel. Like, oh, such a manipulative okay, that's mine. That's all.
There you go.
Good.
Quote of the episode. Yuki, what about you?
So in the very beginning, Hana is like talking with the girls and she's like crying. And she says, 全部辛い。どっちにしても辛くない? And what that translates to is there's no happy ending. Either option is equally painful. So this was when this was right after Emika talked to Ryo and like they were like trying to discuss like how to resolve the situation. But she was like, you know, either way it's painful. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's so true. Like that's what love is. It like just as much as it is like so joyful and like healing, at the same time there's so much like potential for it to be painful. So
Yeah. Dang, deep, heartbreaking,
So profound.
heavy. Okay, well mine is not going to be as heavy, so it's good that I'm closing this out. So my quote of the episode, we got Kai chilling in the hammock. He's on his laptop, and you just hear a piece of his stand-up coming into play where he's like, have you seen Up? It feels like a little surprise party.
Jaehyun, he's a genius. I'm telling you, he's a comedic genius.
And I'm just like,
goodness.
oh boy, where the hell is this going? I want to hear more.
Yes.
We never get to
Me
hear
too.
this stand-up set. Give me the Up. Give me the Up, the surprise, little surprise party. I need to hear more. And then Vivi kind of interjects and they talk about some deep stuff. But all I'm thinking about this entire time is like, I have seen Up. How is it like a little surprise party? Guys, help me. Oh, man.
if you see his laptop too, there's like so many notes that he has. I'm like, oh my gosh, like how
I
come
tried
his sets are so
to
short?
pause it
Me too.
and like zoom in and try to read
Yeah.
the jokes. We should do that. Oh my goodness.
Too good. Oh man. All right. Last episode award would be the Shacked in a Fool Most Cringeworthy Award of the episode. Lucy, what was your most cringeworthy moment of the episode?
So after Hana talks to Rio and gets her answer, I think Vivi had just come down from a shower and she comes in and she doesn't know like the conversation that happened, right? So she's like, oh man, I just watched the most romantic movie on Netflix the other day. And like the mood of that conversation previously really did not fit like her happy, like, oh, she's still trying to flirt, right? She's like, oh, I just watched a romantic movie, like, do you want to watch it? And then Hana like promptly leaves. She's like, I know what's gonna go down here and it's not pretty, so I'm just gonna bone out of here. So that was like the most cringe for me. I was just like, oh man, Vivi is just walking into like an active like minefield right now. She doesn't even know. So
Nice.
yeah, that's it.
Yep. I observed that as well. Dan, what about you?
Just to get off this real train, I thought it was pretty awkward when Kai was down getting treated. He put the chill strip on, and it just seemed like super forced. It seemed like the producers were saying, "Hey, like you guys sit here and like talk." I don't know. It just seemed so unnatural, and like Emiko was still there, and like everyone was pretty much there, but it just seemed like I don't know. Weird. So I don't know. I just felt like this is weird. My red flag went up, but
Nice.
yeah.
Yuki, what about you for your most cringeworthy moment of the episode?
I would say like the part where Vivi asks Yo if she should kiss his black eye to make it better. I'm like, there could be germs that like get in his eye and like I don't know, it just doesn't sound like a good idea. Like also he's not 5, so I don't know. Yeah.
I think it's also cringeworthy because it's like you see her throwing out these like super last ditch efforts to see if he'll take the bait, and he just keeps melting into a puddle, and it's just devolved so much, and it's just like ugh, on both ends, Yeah, I guess my most cringeworthy would be, now that we talked about it, it was initially the black eye boo-boo thing, the kissing the black eye. But now it would be just Rio malfunctioning in real time and just seeing him go, oh, wait, hold on. It's just so hilarious to see that come to pass, and just so indicative of like the web of lies he spun himself into that he can now no longer back out of. So there you go. All right, that does it for
That was great, guys.
What an episode, Yuki. I mean, the analysis, that was amazing. Just how you ran things down in an organized fashion.
Yuki, you're the MVP of this.
Yeah,
Oh my
you're
gosh.
the MVP of this episode.
Please come back.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I would love to. I was telling Lucy, I know how to say like the Japanese intro, so
Yeah, those.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
nice.
anytime
And I
I'll
think
I'll come say it.
your additional context and what they're actually saying versus
Seriously.
the subtitle is great insight.
Added depth. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Quickly, does anybody have anything else that we didn't touch upon? Any random observations or small little things that you guys saw?
Oh, I was just wondering like how you guys feel about Tokui not being on the panel.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I was actually in Japan in last October, and I just like randomly turned on the TV and like he was on TV like apologizing.
Mm.
So I was like, oh, that's weird. So yeah, so I guess like he got like caught evading taxes.
Mm.
Yeah.
So that's why he's not on the show this season.
Yeah. I like him. I like his I think he's genuinely funny. Like he's like he's smart funny too. Like and self-deprecating. It's all just very smart. But I don't know. I think Yama-chan kills it. Like he really carries it. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel bad for Tokui, but like it sucks that he had to go through it in front of the whole world. Everything that happened. The stakes are so high on this show. Like it seems like the show's gotten so big that like the smallest thing will, it affects you.
Yeah.
I'm sure it affects their lives.
I think he and Yama-chan have a really good chemistry with each other. They kind of ping pong off of each other, where Yama-chan is just so extreme and loud, and like Dance Takoi has this more leveled approach to things, but equally as funny, not as like abrasive and blunt as Yama-chan. But so yeah, I think they balance each other out well. So I think that's what I miss the most about him. And the random in and outs of the guest people, it can kind of throw you off, even though they've had good insight. True. I do like, not to be spoilery, but I do like the actress that they eventually have on, the young actress, because she has some really good facial expressions and reactions to stuff. But it's definitely, we're missing kind of that additional like smart comedic element, I think, that Dan kind of mentioned. So.
I really miss how like he and Yui would like act out these like crazy scenes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Like they would go down the rabbit
they had
hole
good chemistry
of, like,
with each other.
Yeah. So I
That's
miss
a good
that.
point.
I think Yui's great. I
Yeah.
love her like wisdom filled like commentary, and like she's like so just experienced with life, and like I don't know. I love her. Like I'm Korean, so like my exposure to like her voice just reminds me of like I don't know, Japanese cartoons, anime like in the early 90s or something, or like what I thought Japanese talk show host would sound like, and so it's nice.
She always teeters the line between like being out of bounds or saying something like inappropriate or offensive. It's great.
She's a habitual line stepper.
Yes,
it's great.
love it.
It's wonderful.
All right. Well, with that said, Yuki, thank you once again for hopping on the show. It was a pleasure, and we gained so much insight, and I'm sure anybody who listens to this episode will as well. We'd love to have you back sometime, and hopefully we can get a breath of fresh air coming up with these next episodes. We'll see. But yeah, thank you guys for listening to Terrace Up My Heart. Please rate and review us 5 stars on the Apple iTunes podcast. And,
Not 1 star.
Not one star. You know who we're talking about, you Rio lover, you.
Rio, we're talking to you.
We're talking about Rio, actually.
So guys, Rio went on Apple Podcasts and gave us 1 star. So
we're feeling pretty bad about that. So help rectify that situation. So with that said, we will catch you guys next time. Lucy, Dan, Yuki, Jane.
Bye.
We ain't got no money, but we got lots of time. So let's spend a little, live a little, 'cause every day the sun will rise.
Wake up!
Come smell the roses, oh, come take your time. Dead for a moment, said heaven. been on fire.